Lara Croft and Adam Jensen are under new management. I went to Disneyland and checked out Avengers Campus, and I've got some thoughts. And man, I have been playing a ton of bowling in Nintendo Switch Sports. Let's take a look at that and all the latest and everything cool today in the Rundown. Hello, my friends. Welcome to the Rundown. My name is Victor Lucas, and I'm so glad to see you here in the Electric Playground. Today's episode is dedicated to Beans, who says this is the first comic book movie in a long time to not give me comic book movie fatigue. It's such a breath of fresh air. The bar is set high for its sequel, and he's talking about my Batman review, the Batman review. And of course, just recently we have heard that Matt Reeves and Robert Pattinson are teaming up for the sequel to the Batman. Not a big surprise. The first movie has done blockbuster business. It's incredible that it's streaming already, just weeks after it premiered in theaters. It's a phenomenal film, though, and it definitely stands up to repeat viewings. Thank you for your great comment, Beans. Let's get started with your rundown and that huge Embracer news today. In a deal worth $300 million, Embracer has agreed to buy a number of Square-Enix-owned development studios and a lot of their video game IP. We're talking about Square-Enix Montreal, Eidos Montreal, and the biggie Crystal Dynamics. And of course, included in this deal is the license and the ownership of Tomb Raider and Deus Ex and Thief and a game we haven't heard from for a long time, Legacy of Kain. All of the extensions on these properties, and it includes 50 games in its back catalog. We don't know what this means for the Marvel properties that Crystal Dynamics and Eidos Montreal have worked on, that's Guardians of the Galaxy and the Avengers game, but conceivably there's going to be some carryover with the licensing agreements there, and I think an interesting entree for Embracer into the superhero sphere, working with Marvel in that capacity and Disney in that capacity. Embracer is a massive Swedish-based organization with studios all over the world. They made big headlines when they picked up THQ Nordic and really started to funnel some cash into the development of games there. This doesn't mean that Square Enix has sold all of its Western-focused video games. Outriders is still going to be published by Square Enix. We're still going to see Just Cause games and Life is Strange games from Square Enix. But really, the focus has shifted for Square Enix to look at their Japanese-developed titles like Final Fantasy, of course, and all of the JRPG and the action RPG types of titles that Square Enix is kind of known for. That's where their primary focus is going to be. But we've also heard in an interview that Square Enix president Yasuki Matsuda did with Yahoo Japan that the company is going to be focused on cryptocurrency and investments into AI and taking some of this money that they're going to be making from Embracer and spending it on pay-to-earn type of experiences. So not only is Square Enix going to be making a lot of games that we know from them traditionally, but they are also looking at the appetite for things like NFTs and cryptocurrencies and blockchain, enabled video game experiences where people can spend more money to acquire specific digital items that will be owned just by them. And this is a huge movement in the video game industry. It's a slippery slope in terms of a topic because of environmental concerns and price gouging and fairness across the spectrum of play. Just this massive change that's happening in the video game industry. This is a trend-focused community. Game makers are always looking at what is hot in technology and applying a lot of those principles to some of their core designs. And that can always be upsetting for traditionalists like myself that just want better iterations on what has been established across these video games in the past. It feels like mobile gaming 2.0 for me, and it freaks me out. I really don't like that. I don't like game makers chasing the golden ring like that, I'd rather they chase the golden ring like classic Sonic games, in my opinion. But I understand these are businesses, and a lot of them are publicly traded, and they're looking at these kinds of investments and these deals to make more and more money for their shareholders, and I understand that. I just worry about where the art goes when they're just thinking about how to kind of squeeze as much revenue from players out there. But the thing that really gives me pause about this whole deal is that $300 million that Embracer spent to acquire all of these studios, which includes 1,100 people. Tomb Raider, to me, feels like it's worth $300 million. This is a property that has endured decades. There's been multiple films based on Lara Croft and the Tomb Raider brand. There's been some animated work. There's been comic books and novels and and action figures, and the licensing around just Tomb Raider feels like it's worth $300 million. And it's shocking to me that a game company with as much experience and as much know-how and money in the bank as Square Enix couldn't make a good go of it owning the Tomb Raider brand. There have been some phenomenal Tomb Raider experiences already, and obviously there's been an announcement of a new Tomb Raider game being made in Unreal Engine 5, and that announcement for that game probably preceded a lot of the hubbub that's surrounding this big deal, because obviously now Embracer looks like they've got a feather in their cap with Tomb Raider. So I'm excited for what this means for Embracer. As someone that has covered Square Enix in multiple ways over the years, it did always feel a little bit like they were two disparate elements of the studio. Whenever we went to an E3 showcase and Square Enix was showing off the stuff that they were making in Japan, and then the stuff that was coming out of their North American-based developers, it didn't jive. It didn't sort of click into place in a smooth way. There was always this kind of disconnect. But Square Enix has published a lot of incredible titles over the years. They're not fully abandoning the idea of having Western-developed games under their portfolio, but for the most part, we're going to be seeing a lot more Dragon Quest and Final Fantasy and some of the IP that they have brought out over the years, revitalized, reinterpreted, sequelized. So this is a massive deal. It certainly puts Embracer on the world stage as now one of the biggest publishers on Earth. There is a lot of speculation about more huge acquisitions, about Warner Brothers being potentially purchased in some capacity, maybe development studios and some licensing deals included in that with some of their IP, like the DC Comics universe and Harry Potter and stuff like that, Mortal Kombat. And then there's also big speculation around Ubisoft potentially being acquired by somebody as well. So these big deals are not concluding by any means for 2022, but let me know what you think about this deal around Tomb Raider and Deus Ex and Legacy of Kain and Thief, especially Tomb Raider. What are your thoughts on all this? Do you think Embracer is going to do a good job kind of carrying the torch for these brands? I really hope we get a new Deus Ex announcement soon. That would be incredible. But let me know your thoughts in the comments below. All right, now I want to shift over to where I was last week. Last week, my family and I took a little vacation. We took a break, and we went down to Disneyland. This was our first vacation in a couple of years, and the last place that we went on vacation was Disneyland. But since that time, Disneyland opened up the Marvel's Avengers Campus, and I was so excited to go and see all of the stuff there. Obviously, I wanted to see the Web-Slingers ride based on Spider-Man. I wanted to see the Avengers HQ. I'd already been on the Guardians of the Galaxy Mission Break ride, which used to be the Tower of Terror ride there, so I knew what to expect out of that ride, but I wanted to see the Ancient Sanctum, where Doctor Strange was going to pop up, and the merch that was going to be around the Marvel stuff. And I have to say, I came away really disappointed. I really thought that this was a very thin Marvel experience, and especially that's compounded by the beauty of Galaxy's Edge, the Star Wars theme park that they have just nailed. And we experienced really for the first time last time we were at Disneyland, and we got to re-experience it this time. And Galaxy's Edge is just phenomenal. Just the whole layout and the setup, and you hear spaceships flying over top, and in every direction, every nook and cranny of Galaxy's Edge just feels like you are fully in a galaxy far, far away. And Avengers Campus feels like a corner of the California Adventures Park, and all of these different characters and properties and IP that exist under the Marvel brand are really squandered. You do see some of the characters walking around. I saw Moon Knight up on top of Avengers headquarters right next to the Quinjet. He was just sort of posing and looking around. He looked cool, costume looked cool. And I did enjoy the Web-Slingers ride. I do have to say I did enjoy that. Tom Holland makes an appearance, and all you have to do is kind of flick your wrists and you're shooting out webs at all of these different spider bots that are running amok everywhere. And then, of course, you can purchase one of the spider bots in the gift store, but there's just so many of them, and the rest of the Marvel merch just wasn't that cool. It wasn't as cool as the stuff that you would get in a comic book store, and I think that that's a real failing. Like it celebrated the rides and it celebrated Disneyland, and there'd be some big slapped-on logo on the side that said you got this at Disneyland, or this is based on the Web Technologies area around the Web-Slingers ride. It wasn't cool, and it just felt kind of cheap. and thin. And that was the most disappointing part about it, is that they could have done so much more. I watched the Doctor Strange Ancient Sanctum show, and it reminded me of the old shows that they used to do with Darth Vader and the stormtroopers dancing up on stage and playing with the kids. It was kind of cute, but it felt so small for arguably the biggest movie franchise that Hollywood has ever created and that Disney owns. You know, it just felt so small. Like Doctor Strange walks out on stage by himself through this video portal, and there's some, smoke effects and the lights change color and stuff like that. And then Thor makes an appearance, but it's just like a walk-on cameo kind of gag. And it's cute, but you want more sort of epic scale. I mean, I don't know if any of you have seen the Indiana Jones stunt show spectacular that used to be at Disney World, and I don't know if they ever had it at Disneyland, but that was amazing. It was like a full-on stunt show, and boulders were flying everywhere and explosions going off, and it was just epic. And Doctor Strange's performance could have had something like that, and there could have been more from the Marvel space for sure. And so, I was kind of deflated. I was so excited to go to Avengers Campus, and I thought, oh my God, this is I don't know, it just didn't feel on par with the sort of the bar that they set with Galaxy's Edge. So I've never reviewed a theme park attraction before, but if I would give this a score, I think it would be like a 5 out of 10. Like it's just not enough, and I was shocked. I didn't dig the merch. I didn't dig the amount of characters, and I just thought it was just a squandered opportunity. Web-Slingers is cool. Definitely, recommend you check that out. And if you haven't ridden the Guardians of the Galaxy Mission Breakout ride, it's cool as well, although Tower of Terror was better. So I'd give it about a 5 out of 10, which is nuts. All right, let's talk about my time with Nintendo Switch Sports. Now, I'm not quite ready to review Nintendo Switch Sports yet because I just got home from my trip and I had a code, thank you Nintendo, and I played it through the weekend, but I've really just started to digest and get into all of this. Now, I tried all of the sports out. There's volleyball, there's badminton, tennis, chambara, which is a sword fighting experience on top of a platform and you try to knock your opponent off. And I spent a lot of time playing soccer, but the most amount of time playing bowling so far. And of course, this is a complete tip of the hat to the Wii Sports phenomenon that happened several years ago. And there's been a sequel and sort of derivatives and iterations on that Wii Sports concept in the past. But this is the first, Nintendo Sports fun for everyone type of experience on Switch. And it's a good fit. That's probably the best use of the Joy-Con that I've experienced so far. It really works well with the controller variations that the Joy-Con and the Switch kind of allow for. And it was fun to take the Joy-Con off. I even tried it on the airplane a little bit. I was bowling on the airplane as I had the Switch on my tray table. Not the best way to experience the game. But it was kind of cool that I could take the Joy-Con off the Switch in portable mode and just place it on a table and still play the game. And it looks great. This is definitely a visual upgrade from the classic Wii Sports experience. But let's talk a little bit about bowling in particular, because this is the one that really got its hooks on me. It hasn't changed that much from Wii Sports. I mean, you take in the Joy-Con and it's all about releasing and timing and aiming properly and trying to get as many strikes as possible. They have included online play this time, and online play is how you collect all of the things that allow you to customize. You can customize your little motto, you can customize, character attributes and put on hats and beards and glasses. You can change out the different tools that you might have, the rackets for badminton and tennis, and your swords and things like that. You put a little bow in your hair. So you collect all that by playing online and doing well, and you get rewarded, and you can level up, and then you can get into the pro circuit. You can go from an E grade up to an A grade, depending on how much time you spend. Bowling is addictive as hell, because what happens when you jump into a bowling experience is you have 16 players from around the world, and all of them are at varying skill levels, and you are immediately thrust into a tournament where players are being eliminated based on their scores, and so the pressure is high right from the very beginning. You're trying to get as many strikes as you possibly can, and if you miss that strike, that first shot, if you only get like 7 of the pins down, you know you're out. And so each of the rounds lasts 3 attempts. You get 3 different tries to get that strike or that spare. And so the amount of players that you're pitted against shrinks a little bit, but also the skill of those players is much more evident, and you're competing against their scores. And there are some sharks out there already. I noticed, like first time I played online was Friday night, and I crushed it. I came in first, and it was like, wow, I'm a god king at bowling. But I noticed by Sunday, man, people are so freaking good at this game already, and so that challenge is incredibly addictive. I really had a tough time going to bed last night and putting this game down. Like, it's just so much fun, and I'm going to be going right back to it after I'm done the rundown today, because I've been having a blast with that. I've also been enjoying soccer, and soccer plays a little bit like Rocket League, where you actually have control of the player and you're running around, you can pass to each other, and it's based on the Joy-Con motions. The way that you swing the Joy-Con will impact the ball, so you can kick it up in the air, you can kick it downfield, or you can try to sort of hook the shot, or you can swing both Joy-Con at the same time and you'll do like a super header. You've got a bit of a boost meter to run a little bit faster, but that constantly runs out. And, you know, tracking where the ball is can be a little bit frustrating because you do have camera control when you're playing soccer as well. So there's quite a bit of stuff. Like, it's a very video gamey type of experience. And because it is, which I like, but because it is, you can't help but compare it to Rocket League. And I would way rather play Rocket League than soccer in Nintendo Switch Sports. But I did enjoy playing online. You could play with up to 7 other players, so 8 people at a time. There's 4 versus 4. And there definitely is some strategy, and there are definitely some great players out there. So I really dug that. I still have more to play. I'm going to come back very soon with a full review of it, but I have been enjoying it. I have offered it to my family. We played a little bit, but they weren't as enthused by it as I'd hoped they were. I'm going to try to get them to play a little bit more with me, because I feel like this is a game that's really suited to local party play, to play it with your friends and your family. And I haven't really had that experience yet. They were probably a little bit burnt out from all the Disney time that we had. I definitely have more to say about this game, but I am enjoying it, especially bowling. It's got its hooks in me, and it stands the test of time, just like the Wii bowling did. You know, it was just so fun to play that. All right, that's going to do it for the rundown today. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. I'll be back soon with a fresh episode. Thanks for watching this one. Thank you for subscribing to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/EPNTV, and following our Twitch channel, where we live stream rundowns and play all kinds of games. That's at twitch.tv/EPN. Thank you, everybody. We'll see you soon. And until then, play forever.